Hello there, and welcome to another anniversary album review of The Shield Doing a Couch. I'm joined by JC from Rock and Metal Reviews and the Green Man. So, first of all, hey guys, good morning. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Pretty
Good.
good.
And we're here today to discuss an album that turns 21 today, System of a Down Toxicity, which came out September 4 of 2001, 1 week after September 11. So that's why I remember it so much.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go ahead and discuss what we were doing when it came out, our favorite tracks, and finally, how it has held up 21 years later. So I'm going to have we're going to start today with Tom, the Green Man. Have a start and what you were doing when this first came out.
What was I doing when this came out? So I have to think about it because I actually went on to buy this album, I think the following year. And so when this came out, I think I started to notice actually at college at the time, a lot of people, a lot of kids wearing System of a Down hoodies with the Toxicity album cover, on the front. And that got me very curious about, who's this band, System of a Down, with the kind of Hollywood type album cover. And that really stoked my interest in them. And then I think I saw the video for Chop Suey, and I was like, what is this? This is bizarre. I have to say, my first reaction was, this is really interesting. I couldn't think yet, even though at that point I was listening to new metal quite a bit. It was unique. It wasn't like a lot of the other new metal bands to me. It had a unique kind of, style to it where you could tell there was something different in the delivery of the vocals as well, and the style. There were a few interesting things going on. So I didn't get to the album, I think, until the following year. I decided I would, finally listen to the album in full, not just the hit singles. And it was I remember listening to the album in full on a trip to Paris on the Eurostar trip to Paris, I think it was. I bought the album just before that. So I was listening, it's kind of like the soundtrack at the time to that sort of journey to Paris. And I liked a lot of the songs on it. And I realized that actually, this band, there was something pretty special about them. They were different. And this album was definitely, and again, despite the sort of freestyle kind of thing they've got going on with a lot of the arrangements on these songs and the manic kind of style that System of a Down have, it is also very infectious. They managed to make what is quite some really sort of strange styles work all together. So yeah, it caught on to me very quickly, the album, once I bought it and finally listened to it in full.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's good. So how about you, JC? What were you doing when this first came out?
Yeah, you mentioned that this was released a week after the 9/11.
Before.
I think it was the week before.
It was a week before, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it was 1 week before. Yeah, and that is interesting, because I was living in New York at the time. So, that 9/11 that happened like very close to me. Not, I wasn't, very close to the site, but I lived on Long Island, which was not too far away. But anyway, this was an album. I still have my CD that I bought back then. I guess it was over 20 years ago. I think I heard the song Chop Suey, probably like most of us have. And I liked it a lot. That this was a type of album that, they call it new metal. And I think it's one of those things where, like, in any type of metal that was popular at that time, they called it new metal, because I mean, like, this is not like Limp Bizkit. Like, there's no rap. They don't do any rap. I mean, they have their own thing. They're doing this is a type of, in your other video, you said when you don't know what metal is, they call it avant-garde.
Avant-garde.
Yeah. I mean, I think if this came out today, they would call it avant-garde, but
probably
back then they called it new metal. It's just that, I mean, you got the two vocalists, Serge Tankian and Darian Malakian. They had these different styles, these like very heavy, like stop-start riffs. just like these like strange like song structures and like Green Man was saying, very melodic. Chop Suey, I don't know why that was a big hit. Like, and it's just like the strangest song. The lyrics are weird. They don't make any sense really. But I mean, there's something about that time period where it's just I think it's just the songs are very short and catchy. You got like 14 songs, 45-minute long album. So I think because of that, so I just really loved it because it was very heavy. It was different, nothing like I've ever heard before. And that's why, I went out and bought the album. I think just because of like Chop Suey and then like Ariel's Toxicity, those were music videos and they were being played like during the daytime on MTV. MTV, they were known for playing like their metal only on Saturday nights, but like this was a mainstream album and it's heavy. I mean, you listen to some of these songs, I mean, there are like some parts where like you almost hear like these like death growls and like on some parts and they were playing these songs along with like Nickelback and those bands. And Nickelback, that was another album that came out, Silver Setup. I think that came out on 9/11. But so this is one of my favorite bands. I love all their albums. This was the one I bought on CD. I actually like just bought the other ones recently, and I think it's probably their best album. So, but we'll get into that later. So yeah, that's my experience.
Nice. So that leaves me. So when System of a Down Toxicity came out, I was working in hospitality. I was getting people to go to hotels so they would have free meals. And I remember this album came out and I was working at the mall. So I went and got this album. And I used to, there was this metalhead that used to work with me in that place. And he's like, he said that he could see the future. And I told him, like, what do you see in the future in this album? And I'm like, this album is going to be a hit. And he was right. He said he had a third eye. So when it came out, I had already listened to System of a Down because of their previous album and the song Sugar, which I thought, like, when I first listened to Sugar, I was like, this is so fucking strange. It's so fucking unique. It was like, nothing sounded like them. So the first song that I listened to was Chop Suey, that before it came out, I thought it was about eating at Chinese food restaurants, but because of the name, but they don't say Chop Suey anywhere on the song. I'm like, some of the names are like, why is it named Chop Suey? But yeah, that song, I still love it, even though I have a little bit of Chop Suey fatigue, because at the time when this came out, then every cover band in Puerto Rico, every time you went to a pub, they would play that song every time. I'm like, I got tired of it. I'm like, no, I don't want to hear Chop Suey again. But yes, I think when it came out at a time that, it was the George Bush era. We had the war with, was it Iraq at the time, that was looming? So there was a lot of tension. And Rage Against the Machine was sort of like not putting music. So we got a new political band. They took the torch from Rage Against the Machine. And I loved it because they had political songs, but they also had songs that were fun, and I had no idea what they were about. And they were lumped in back then, you said avant-garde, but back then it was like everything was new metal. This is new metal. But they didn't rap. Serge Tankian had a great, unique voice to it, kind of operatic. And Daron had like a weird thing to it. And also they included their music from the Armenian roots on it. So I thought that made them unique, and they made you pay attention to their Armenian heritage, which I thought was great. So when this came out, I loved it back then, and I still love it now. And it was just great. So now what we're gonna go ahead and do is, like, we're gonna go back, and now we're gonna talk about what are our favorite tracks. So Tom, what are your 3 favorite tracks from this album?
3 favorites. So yeah, I like quite a few tracks on this album. I mean, it's actually every track is almost really good actually. Listening to this, like there's so many good things to sort of pick out. I really like Deer Dance. You know, it's kind of got a bit of a melodic part to it as well, sort of in the bridge, I think, of that sort of track. And you know, pretty thunderous like rhythm to kick it straight away. It goes into it, doesn't hang around Deer Dance. I think it just goes straight into that really kind of heavy rhythm, which I love. So I think Deer Dance would definitely be one. And interesting lyrics as well, like you both said. You know, it touches kind of they're quite political, and I quite like digging into the lyrics of some of their tracks as well, and kind of thinking a bit more about what they kind of mean within them. So Deer Dance is definitely one. I like. Well, I'm going to say Chop Suey because I really just still love that track. I've heard it a million times, but I still think it's a really powerful track, as well as being very much the kind of Manic System style. It's a really quite powerful song with, you know, really kind of beautiful. You know, I actually think quite beautiful vocals come out of that track as well, and it's very memorable. The other one that I really like, well, there's two tracks here I was trying to decide between, and I can't. I was thinking of saying Toxicity, but that's too obvious, I guess. And a track which makes me laugh a lot is Bounce.
Oh yeah, that was featured in The Secret Life of Pets.
Yeah. And given the subject matter of the song, that's kind of weird, isn't it? That's in a kids' film.
It is
Yeah,
weird.
But it's hilarious. I mean, I can remember, like I was saying, my first experience with the album. I think it was, you know, one where I was laughing a bit as well. There's a humor, you know, despite all the kind of some of the serious subject matter of their songs. It's kind of the style of their music is kind of, you know, a little bit whimsical almost, if you like. It kind of is quite, you know, it's quite funny to listen to it on the first listen, but then you realize the more deeper aspects of their music as you listen more to them. So your first impression is just like, it's as manic as anything, right? It's just all over the place. But then you realize after a few listens, or sometimes less than that, really, just they're a pretty kind of, as you both said, a special band. So I think those would be my three favorite tracks. Maybe, and I'm not supposed to cheat, but I'd give a shout out to Science. I love Science.
Oh yeah. It's failed our Mother Earth.
Mm.
That's the lyric. Sorry.
Yeah.
What about you, JC? What are your favorite tracks?
yeah, well, lots of them. I want to start off with the Prison song. I just love that. The Prison song. Did they just like whisper, like, you know, like the trying to build a prison, and then they had those like stop-start riffs.
Yeah,
and it's just a very like political song. Like the first song on the album, they're kind of like telling you, like, you know, that this is what we're doing. You know, we're the new like political band, like you're saying. And then they give like these like prison stats like during the middle of the song. I have the lyrics here. It's like, you know, the percentage of Americans in the prison system, you know, all that. And then the lyric, the chorus, you know, like they're trying to build a prison. I love that one. My next one, Needles, and it's a weird song because they talk about the tapeworm, and it's like my tapeworm tells me what to do. Then like pull the tapeworm out of your ass. I mean, it's like so weird, but I think like because of that, like I probably like remember the song more for being that song about like the tapeworm than I do being like the title Needles. It just, that was the one that I was you know, went to. Another good deep cut X. It's kind of a, like the lyrics are not very complex. It's very repetitive, but I just like it, you know, like, but we don't need to nullify, we don't need to nullify. Love that one. And so those are three. I picked three deep cuts. Chop Suey, I think that's the one song I think I got like bored. It's overplayed for me. I just,
like I said, in the pub.
But and the other two singles, Toxicity Aerials, I love those still. But just the deep cuts, I love the deep cuts. So that's why I picked those three. Prison Song, it was Needles and X. But I could have picked to go a lot more, but
Yeah, I know this
those
is a
must be,
hard album to pick songs because they're all so good, but I think the singles, Aerials, Toxicity, and Shop Suey, they're great. But I think this album shines on the deep cuts. I think the deep cuts
yeah,
are so great, so fucking weird that's why they couldn't release them. And I'm gonna pick three different deep cuts from the album. So I'm gonna talk about Psycho, like
Oh
Psycho
yeah.
Cookie Crazy.
yeah.
Like it's just you listen to it and I'm like, wow, it's such a
Yeah,
weird song. And one of my favorite songs on the album is ATWA, the one
yeah,
that goes, "Hey, you see me, all the world." That's it. It's just a great vocal melody from Serge on that one, and also I love Forest. I
yeah,
think that's another one that's great. And you mentioned Prison Song. I love that one as well. I think this album it's just so the best word to describe this album is frantic, hectic.
yeah,
It goes all over the place, and nothing sounded like that at the time, and that's why they put the new metal in it. So,
yeah,
but if I had to mention three tracks, I'll go with Atwa, I'll go with Psycho, and I'll go with Forest. To give different, even though I love each one, I think great album. So now we're gonna go back and we're gonna say how has it held up 21 years later. So first of all, Tom, we're gonna start with you again.
Yeah, I think it's held up really well. I mean, it's still very much talked about. I mean, we're talking about it here today, sort of celebrating it. And yeah, I think, it's spoken about well. I mean, as we kind of all have pointed out, it came out in an era where everything that sounded a bit like this was kind of given the new metal, tag, or that came out about this time rather was given the new metal tag. And yet, I think because they were a little bit different, there was always perhaps that feeling that System of a Down might be remembered for longer than bands that were more kind of one-hit wonders or one-album wonders, maybe, that had the new metal sound and all the rapping and stuff, but they didn't have so much to maybe tell them apart. Whereas System of a Down and this album, perhaps above their other releases, actually, I don't know their most recent, I think the 2005 one. But this one has it has a bit of an iconic status now. It is one that people recognize the hits, and it was very much like I say. I remember when it came out, well, how popular it was. All the college students wearing the hoodies, as I said at the start of the video. It had its big impacts then, and it's just kind of grown. I think it's reached out to other generations, probably because of its. I think I remember seeing a colleague at work watching System of a Down video not long ago. I was like, oh, interesting. So it's obviously still, it's still got its appeal now, as and I think it's because of that, their ability to write songs, to have all these weird elements, but to write songs that are still really, sort of have this free flowing style to them. But they have a certain sort of, I don't know, just catch on appeal. They're very infectious. They make them infectious, basically, which is, I think, just given all the elements, sort of Middle Eastern sort of styles, and the frantic drop C guitars, and all of those sort of, all that sort of stuff. And somehow they pull it off, somehow they pull off songs which have all these kind of strange elements in that they make it work. And I think because they obviously must have worked at this style together. I don't know how long together they were before Toxicity release. Maybe one of you guys can tell me how long they were together.
Well, Spiders was released in 1998, if I'm not mistaken, right?
yeah, I think so.
And they
Yeah,
played,
the self-titled, yeah.
they played the self-titled, and they played Ozfest with the first one. I think they were in the 1999 or 1998 Ozfest. I can't remember now, but yeah. But they took like 3 years to release this follow-up.
Yeah, I just think there must have been some great chemistry in that band. When, I don't know, it feels like that when you hear their stuff. It just feels like it's natural yet it's something that doesn't feel like it should work on the face of it. You know, if someone
Yeah.
was to describe System of a Down to you, you think that's going to sound, you know, but yeah, they make it work, and their sound still,
It works.
I think they're so no one else sounds like them. Yeah.
You know, on a quick side note, there's a band from Puerto Rico called Puya that if you haven't listened to Puya, Tom, I recommend it. And they actually toured in 1998. I think it was a Something Snow tour. I think it was System of a Down, Puya. I don't know which other band, Incubus or some other one. I would have to dig. And mentioning Incubus, Morning View turns also 21 today, but obviously I was going to talk about this one first.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think they toured on that one. So now we're gonna go to JC. What do you think about 21 years later?
Oh yeah, but it definitely holds up. This one actually did a video on this last year when it was like the 20th anniversary, and this is one minus Chop Suey. I think that one I felt it's overplayed. But the rest of the album, it holds up. This is an album that I go back to a lot, and I have been going back to it like for the past like 21 years. It's like I listen to it like at least a few times a year, or it's that good. It's still relevant because you read the lyrics. These are the things that are still going on today, like Prison Song. That's relevant like 20 years later, and pretty much everything else, all the other stuff they're talking about, like the toxicity and everything else they're talking about, that it's still relevant. I think it still holds up. I think like the worst part about this band is that like they're not making any more albums. I think they have those 5 albums, and I don't think they're ever going to make another album. Like the guys have had solo albums. I know there's that Darren Malakian has that side project. I forgot what it's called.
Scars on Broadway.
Yeah, Scars on Broadway. They released 2 albums. They're okay. Serge Tankian, he releases solo albums, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
And
it's like you take part of the mix. It's like it's good food, but you take away it's like it's missing a sauce.
Yeah, so that's why it's like this band is like you need those 2 vocalists, and like you need like all of the members to be together. And I've read interviews. I know that they released 2 singles, like kind of like they dropped 2 singles, I think in the end of 2020, which were good, but that's probably all we'll like ever get. And so that's like the worst thing about this band is that they were so good, but they only have 5 albums to listen to. So for that reason, it's something I always go back to. It holds up. This is my old CD. Still play it, and still plays well, and it's just a great album.
Yeah, so I guess that would lead me. So yeah, it's a shame because I think Serge Tankian is not interested in going back to System of a Down, and he's got some solo artwork, solo albums, and they're cool. But yes, I really wish they would get their shit together and do something. But the thing is, what if they do something and it's founding and it's not as great? Then it's taken. So I feel good saying this has held up, and this is still my favorite System of a Down record. I just listened to it and go back to that time, and 2001 had some great albums in it, very good albums, and I think this was one of my top, if not my favorite album of 2001. And yeah, they said new metal because at that time that was the thing. Everything that they didn't understand, new metal. But 21 years later, I think it still has held up. So I want to thank again Tom the Green Man and JC Rock and Metal Reviews for being guests on my channel today. If you haven't subscribed to their channels, please do so. And later on today, we have another album collaboration that we do for Tom the Green Man channel on his Dark Horse series, and we're talking about Ozzy's The Ultimate Sin. So that will be later on today. And JC Rock and Metal Reviews, like he has some great album reviews too, rankings, and we'll have more collaborations soon on his channel. So keep an eye out for that. So we want to know, what are your favorite tracks of Toxicity? What are your memories of listening to this album? And how would you rank it in the system of a Down discography? Comment. We would really want to know. So, and I'm Hector, the Shield on a Couch. And if you want to subscribe, I'm nearing 400 and I want to get to 500. I want the community tab so I can post stuff. So please do that. Come on, help me get to 500, please. So until next time, this is Hector, the Shield on a Couch, with my guests, JC and Tom the Green Man. And we'll see you next time. And today, play System of a Down Toxicity loud. Thank you and good night.